Good afternoon, everybody. Today is our last class, and today we will try to learn how we can secure our web application. So, before learning this one, we want to go for some lab work because today the theory is not lot, so we can go for some lab work and then I will start the theory again. So I will request Mr. Monirujjaman to show some lab work now, and then I will go for the theory.
Thank you, sir. So today we will, I have got some email regarding Barb Switch installation, and some people send me email that they are facing lots of problem while installing Barb Switch. So I will repeat this tutorial again. So how you can install Barb Switch in your machine and you can configure it with your browser. So I hope you can follow me. And first of all, we need to go to Google and search with Barb Suite. So this is the official website of Barb Suite, and you can simply download it. And from here, depending on your OS, you can download it. And after downloading this software, you can install as like other software. Then I have already installed this software in my local machine, so I can show you. From this part, this is install Barb Suite, and open it. Barb Suite is opening. This is use Barb default. You don't need to do anything here, just click next. So it will take some time to open. And Barb Suite, this is the main interface of Barb Suite, and from there you will get lots of options in this menu. So first of all, you need to set the proxy tab. From there you will have this option menu, and depending on your browser setting, you can set this proxy listener URL. So you can either edit this one, the port number, the host, or you can add new one. So it will connect it to the proxy. So after running this, here you will see a tick mark running. So after that's mean this is running, there is no problem. If there is any problem, you will not be able to click on this running tick mark. So as Barb Suite is listening in this host and this port, so if you set this URL from your proxy in your browser, so the browser will send request to this Barb, and then the Barb Suite will do the unfinished job for you. So let me show you how you can configure this Barb Suite with your Firefox. Then you need to start your Firefox, and it's open. From this menu, you will have to click on preference. At the very bottom of this page, you will see network setting. From this network setting, you will have an option to configure your proxy. So click on this, and by default there is no proxy, and at the last item there is a option manual proxy configuration. So you will have to click on this link, and you will the input box will be enabled now, and here you will have to put the IP from your burp suite. So you see it's 127.0.01. Both proxy, both URL should be same, and the port number. After this, you will have to click on use same this proxy server for all protocol. That means only not for HTTP, it will work for other protocols such as SSL, FTP, some other things. So click on this, and now okay. So this is the basic of burp suite configuration. And what if you want to, by default, you will not be able to browse any website with HTTPS. So you will have to configure this. How can you configure this? Let me show you. After connecting burp suite with your browser, you will have to write burp on your browser. Then you will have to download the certificate. So download this certificate and store it anywhere in your computer. So I have downloaded the file, and then I will have to go to again in menu and then preference. From here, this menu will be in another position, depends on your Firefox version, but in updated version, you will have to search in privacy and security. Then you will have to go to the bottom of this page, and there you will see a menu view certificate. So from this you will have to open this, and you see all of my certificate, and you will have to import the downloaded file. So the last downloaded file you can import it here, and then you will be able to run any site using which is using HTTPS protocol. So I think you will not face any other problems related to burp suite while configuring burp suite. Just be careful about the IP address and the port number. So it will not make any problem, I think. Then after this, using burp suite, I have showed throughout this in our whole course, I have used DBWA. So today, as we will teach you how to do a secure web application design. Before that, I want to show you some coding practice, best coding practice, how you can do good design for this is best practice for PHP web application. So let me show you. First of all, I need to go to my local host. Then we already have DBW downloaded, and I need to download as admin. So I have downloaded, and we showed you how to change the security level here. From here, by default, this is impossible level. You can set low level, and you can practice lots of things here. So let me show you some coding techniques. So how you can securely design your web application. So if you think here, if we try to learn about file upload, let's go to here. So I think my burp suite is listening, that's why. Okay, so
You can do it later.
Okay, now we need some theoretical knowledge before going to that, and after the theoretical gaining theoretical knowledge, we will get back to again.
Thank you. So now To secure a web application, first we need to know the architecture and design issues for web application. So what are the design issues? Number one is stateless nature of HTTP. Number two, application must be able to identify the user by some form of authentication, and then you have to ensure the authentication process is secure, and then session handling mechanism, and then preventing parameter manipulation and preventing disclosure of sensitive data. So you have these few issues to consider for designing a web application. So the top issues need to address to design practice. Number one, here, if you are authenticating the users, first go to the browser, and then you have to consider the protecting sensitive data, and then preventing parameter manipulation, and then preventing session hijacking and cookie replay with the firewall. And then after the firewall, you have the web server. Web application is here. You are providing secure configuration here. You are handling exception here. You are authorizing user here, and you are validating input here. And after this on application server, and in the application server, you have to authenticating and authorizing upstream identities, and then auditing and logging activities and transaction. After that, you have the database, and between this one, you have to protecting the sensitive data. And in the database, when you are storing information into the database, you need to encrypt the data before store, and because you have to store the encrypted data into the database to protect your sensitive data. So if you do the bad design, because you have to for a secure web application, you have to be a good designer. If you do the bad design, what are the vulnerabilities you will face? You will face 10 vulnerabilities here. Number one is input validation, and then authentication, authorization, configuration management, sensitive data, and then session management, cryptography, parameter manipulation, exception management, and auditing and logging. Actually, we will today we will discuss about these 10 issues in details. How it is the vulnerability and how you can protect it. So, for a bad design, if you have any one of out of these 10 vulnerabilities, then your web application will not be secure. So before designing the web application, you have to consider all the 10 vulnerabilities. So vulnerability categories and potential problem due to bad design. So we have 10 categories. Number one is input validation. And what are the potential problems? Problem is attacker performed by embedding malicious string, because in query strings and form field cookies and HTTP headers. So these are the potential problems for input validation. For authentication, if you have a problem with the authentication system, what will be the problem? Problem will be the identity spoofing, password cracking, and elevation of privileges, unauthorized access. And then authorization, so access to credential or restricted data. This may be the problem. For configuration management, unauthorized access to administration interfaces and ability to update configuration data. So then sensitive data, credential information disclosure and data tampering may happen. And then session management, capture of session identifier, cryptography, access the credential data and account credentials or both. And then parameter manipulation, path traversal attacks, command execution and bypass access control, and exception management, denial service of attack or closure of sensitive system level details, auditing and management, failure in the spot of spot the signs of intrusion or inability to probe users' action. So this type of vulnerability, and for each of the vulnerability, which of the potential problem you may face for a bad design, these are the things. So number one, input validation. So what are the things you need to consider about the input validation? First of all, you have to assume all input is malicious. So if you think that all inputs are malicious, then you can protect your system. So then you will try to validate the users. First block all the inputs. First block all the inputs, and then you scan it according to your way, and then you can validate the input. This is the first one. And then centralized approach, and then don't rely on client side validation, because never rely on the client side validation, and be careful in canonicalization issues, and then constrain, reject, and sanitize your input. These are the 5 things you need to consider for input validation. So what are the things that all inputs are malicious? Because if you consider that all inputs are malicious, then you have to validate. First of all, you have to validate all type of inputs, and if the source is secure, then you can, if the inputs are secure, then put it into the trusted channel, otherwise block it. So this is known as we can ensure the valid input in such a way. So block all the inputs in the first stage. So now now the centralize your approach. So how can we centralize your approach? So make the input validation strategy a core element of the application design, and then consider centralized approach to validate. So you have to you have a validation here. You have the pages, you have the controls, and you have the service, and all the things coming from the browser you have to validate here. So you have to have a common validation and filtering code in the shared libraries. So this ensures that the validation rules are applied consistently, and if you use the centralized approach, all the input, all the validation rules will be consistent, and it reduces the development effort and as well as the development cost, and it will help with the future maintenance. So for this reason, you have to go for the centralized validation, input validation. So now don't rely on the client side validation, because server side could perform its own validation. So attacker may bypass the client, the client or shards of the client side script routine. So for this reason, if you trust on the client side validation, then the attacker will validate himself. And if he is trying to bypassing the client, so the server could not understand whether he is a malicious or not. So for this reason, don't rely on the client side validation. Use client side validation to help reduce the number of round trips to the server, but don't rely on the security. So you have to do the client side validation to reduce the some server to increase the server performance, but still don't rely on the server side client side validation. And then be careful with canonicalization. So what is the canonicalization? So if you put the string, the path string like this, and it will be converted in a canonical form. It will convert the data into canonical form, and canonical form is the most standard and simplest form. So for example, if we consider this one, if we the same colon this one will be will be converted as like this, will be converted as like this. So what will happen here, person 3a will be treated as colon, person 3a will be treated as colon, and then person 5c will be treated as a slash. Here here you see the 5c, person 5c will be treated as slash. So we have to be careful about that here, and we have to be careful about that, because if the attacker can know that attacker can find the canonicalization, then easily they can accept the input and they can hack your system. So please make sure that you are not providing this type of file name directly into the canonical form, because you have to secure this one, so that so that the attacker cannot get access to the file, even though they can see the file. So please make sure that you will not get access to all the users. So you have to be specify the user access. And then constraint, reject, and sanitize your input. First, when the input will come, then you have to check with the constraints, and if it will fulfill the constraint, then it will be treated as the good data. It will be treated as the good data, and if it is a reject, then it will be known as the bad data. If it is reject, then it will be known as bad data. And and if it is a malicious, then you have to sanitize this, because so that the malicious data cannot get access to them to your system. So what do you need to consider here? You have to consider constant, reject, and sanitize in the input system. So if it passes through the constant, that means it's a good data. If it is reject, that means it's the bad data. And if there is any malicious thing, you have to sanitize it. Now number 2, because I told you there are 10 issues. So one issue, the first one was the all the input validation. Input validation was the first one, and the second one is authentication. So what is the authentication? Authentication is the process of determining the identity. So there are 3 aspects. So number 1 is identifying where the authentication is required in the application. First, you have to identify the user and then validate the user. You have to validate it and then identify the user on subsequent request. This requires some form of authentication token. So you have to do the 3 things. Number 1 is identify the user, whether the authentication is required or not, and then validate the user, and then finally I identify the user on a subsequent request. Because if you don't do the identification in a subsequent request, when the when the attacker will attack the system, and then he will be treated as the valid user. So then the attacker can do anything whatever he wants. So for this reason, in every request you have to check that whether he is a valid user or not. And then practice to improve the web application authentication. Number 1, separate public and restricted areas. So for authentication process, you have to separate the public and restricted areas, and then use account lockout policies for in the end user accounts, and then support password expiration period, and then be able to disable accounts, and don't store password in a user stores, and require strong password. Don't send password over them where in plain text, and protect authentication cookies. So I'm explaining this all 8 things. So separate the public and restricted areas for every user. So for every users you have to separate the public and restricted areas, because in the public place you can allow anybody as a user, anonymous user, but in a restricted areas you have to be careful, which sort of users you will get access to the system. And if you don't partition this one, then anybody hack your restricted area, and then he can get your credentials. And also what you need to do to avoid the unnecessary performance overhead, so you need to design the site to limit the use of SSL. And for restricted area you have to use the SSL systems for communication or for authentication. So in every step, since you are separating the public and restricted area, so you will have some sort of overhead for authentication process. So to reduce the authentication process, you can limit the use of SSL to the areas that require authentication access. And then use account lockout policies for end user. So disable end user accounts or write events to a log after a set of number of failed logins. For example, already in the financial organization or any e-commerce system, if you put the password failure or login failure 3 times at the same time, then your account will be locked. So what you need to do, you have to lock out, because if someone attack using brute force attack, so he will try lots of times. You have to consider that one, that okay, if someone tries 2 to 3 times or more than 3 times, then you should lock out the account. Otherwise the brute force attack will make a successful story. So if you are using Windows authentication, then the NTA-LM or Kerberos protocol, these policies can be configured and applied automatically by the operating system. And be careful about lockout policies cannot be abused in the denial of service attack. And then support password expiration periods. We are providing the password system, and what the users normally do, users normally put the one password, and they are keeping the password for even though for many years, because they don't try to change the password because of memorization, because if they change the password they may forget the password system. But if you keep the password for a long time, so it is easy for the hacker to get your username and password, and then steal your credentials. So what you need to do, password lifetime should not be static, so you may have to be changed, and you have to put a period of time so that the users should change the password after within the period of time. And then consider providing this type of facility during the application design. And then be able to disable accounts. If the system is compromised, then you have to able to disable the account system. Otherwise you cannot prevent your prevent your system accounts. And then don't store password in user store. Never store the password in the user store, because if you put the password into the user store, the attacker can easily get the password from the user. So always try to use the hash value, and then recompute the hash value using the user supplied password into your system. And To mitigate the threat of the dictionary attack against the user stores, use strong password and incorporate a random sort value with the password. So this was talking about strong passwords. So what are the practice to make a strong password? Minimum of 8 character, and then it will be the mixture of uppercase, lowercase characters, numbers, and the special characters. So if you use the combination of these characters, this type of special characters and numbers, so it will take long time for the brute force attack, and almost a lot of times it is nearly impossible. And then don't send passwords over the wire in plain text. So if you need to send password over the wire, so what you need to do before transmitting it, please encrypt it and then send it through SSL communication channel. Other, if you send it as a plain text, then anybody can catch it and then attack your system. So and then protect authentication cookies. A stolen authentication cookie is a stolen logon. So protect authentication tickets using encryption methods, and then limit the time interval in which an authentication ticket remains valid to the counter spoofing threat can be result from a replay attack. And then reduce the cookie timeout does not prevent the replay attacks, but it does limit the amount of time to attacker has accessed the site using the stolen cookie. And then number 3 is authorization. So what are the authorization? Authorization determines what the authenticated identity can do and the resources that can be accessed. The following practice, what are the practice you can make? You can use multiple gatekeepers and then restrict user access to system level resource, and then consider authorization granularity. So what is the use of multiple gatekeepers? IPsec policy must restrict any host apart from the nominated web servers from the connecting to the database servers. And then IIS provides web permission and internet protocol and DNS restrictions, and NTFS permissions allow us to specify per user access control nodes. So by combining all these gatekeepers, we can develop an effective authorization strategy. And number 2, restrict user access to the system level resources. So you have to restrict the users for the access of the resources like files, folders, and registry key, Active Directory objects database. So use the Windows access control and ACL list to restrict the users who can access what type of resources and what, and pay particular attention to the anonymous internet user accounts and log this down with the ACLs on the resources that explicitly deny access to the anonymous user. So you have to restrict user access to the system level resources. And then consider authorization granularity. So what you can do, you can here we have 2 types of model. One is impersonation model, another one is trusted subsystem model. So trusted subsystem model is the authorization performed in the application logical middle tier using rules which group together users who share the same privileges in the application. And what is the impersonation model? The resources access occur using the security context of the caller, and no mid-level tier is used here. So this is the impersonation model. And number 3, consider number 3 model is the hybrid model. So this is the combination, and you can do, this is the trusted boundary. You can set the rule in the web or application server, rule 1 and rule 2. So yeah, this is that if it follows the rule 1, then it can go to the trusted server 1, and if it follows the rule 2, it can go to the trusted server 2. In this way we can permit the users to the main database server. This model is known as hybrid model. And number 4 is the configuration management. So what is the configuration management? Web application so web applications configuration management functionality, and most applications require interface and allow content developer, operators, and administrator to configure the applications and then manage items such as web page content, user account, user profile information, and database connection strings. If remote administration is supported, how are the administration interfaces secured? So you have to consider this one. So web application configuration management, you have to consider the following things. Number 1 is secure administration interfaces, secure the configuration store, and then maintain separate administration privileges and user list privilege access and service account. And so how can you secure the administration interfaces? And this configuration management functionality should accessible only authorized operator and administrator, and enforce a strong authentication over the administration interfaces, and then limit or avoid the use of remote administration, and require administrator log on locally. And if we need to support remote administration, use encrypted channel or SSL, and then consider limiting remote administration to computers on the internal work by using IPsec policies to further reduce risk. And number 2 is secure the configuration store. Avoid using configuration files in the application web space, and using of Windows SCL or database permission that will secure access to the configuration store. And then avoid storing plain text secret, and then restrict access to the registry key, file, or table. So these are the things of the configuration management system. And then maintain separate administration privileges. So you have to put the privileges for the users, which users can get access to the which level or which file. You have to make a role for authorizing the users. So you have to maintain separate administration policies and privileges for the different files or storage. And then use least privileged process and service accounts. An important aspect of the application configuration is the process accounts used to run the web server process, and then service account used to access the downstream resource and systems. So make sure accounts are set up as least privileged. Always make sure that accounts will be set up as the least privileged account, and then if you need to have access, more access or high access, and then you can give the specific administrator to the high level of access to the file system. Otherwise, if you put all the administrator in the high level privilege, then it may damage the system So make sure that always put the least privilege, and then based on your requirement put the higher privilege. And number 5 is sensitive data. So what are the things we need to consider for improve the web application security regarding sensitive data? So retrieve sensitive data on demand. So and then encrypt the data or secure the communication channel. Don't store sensitive data in the persistent cookies, and don't pass sensitive data using the HTTP GET protocol. So what you need to do, retrieve sensitive data on demand. So never pass the data, sensitive data without the need of the user. So if you need to access the data, if a user need to access the data, then you can retrieve from the system. Otherwise you don't need to retrieve it, and make sure that it will not put it in the cache memory, because if you put the sensitive data in the cache memory, the cache memory easily the attacker can take it. And one more thing is that whenever you need to put the uh, sensitive data into the cache memory, please make it in the encrypted way, and please make it in an encrypted way. Whenever you need to retrieve data from the storage, please make sure that you are retrieving data in an encrypted way, and then decrypt it, and then use it. And after use it, please make it that you are clearing the memory. So for sensitive data, you have to consider things in like that. When you are retrieving in an encrypted format, and then decrypt it, and then use it. And after use it, please clear the memory. And these are the things you need to do for the sensitive data. And now encrypted data or secure communication channels. If you are sending sensitive data over the network to the client, first encrypt the data and then use the secure communication channel. A common practice to use this on SSL between client and the web server, and between the server normally use the IPsec protocol. And as well as for securing sensitive data, you can use the simple object access protocol message, use message level encryption. And don't store sensitive data in the persistence cookie. Already I told you that avoid storing sensitive data in the persistence cookie, and please don't store it even in the cache memory without encryption technique. And then don't pass the sensitive data using HTTP GET protocol. So you are requesting not to pass the sensitive data using this type of protocol, because this protocol uses query string to pass the data, and sensitive data cannot be secured using query strings, and query strings are often locked by the server. So these are the 4 things you need to be careful about the sensitive data. And then number 6 is the session management. So what you need to do with the session management for your web application. So use SSL to protect session authentication cookies. So you have to use the SSL technique, and then encrypt the contents of the authentication cookies, and then limit session lifetime, and then protect session state from unauthorized access. So use of SSL to protect session authentication. So don't pass authentication cookies over HTTP connections, and then set the secure cookie property within authentication cookies. So instruct browser to send cookies back to the server only over HTTPS connections. And number 2 is encrypt the contents of the authentication cookies. Encrypt the cookies content even if you are using the SSL. Even you are using the SSL, make sure that you are encrypting the cookies, and then SSL prevents the attacker viewing or modifying the cookie. He manages to steal it through the XSS attack. And number 3 is limit the session time. So let's make sure that you are limiting the session time, and if you need them a long time for a session, you have to reinstate the session, maintaining the connectivity, maintaining the session. If you have a less time in the session, um, it will uh, secure your system more. But if you don't have the if you have a long time, then the attacker can capture the session easily to access your application. And then protect session state from unauthorized access. For optimum performance, we can store the session state in the web application process address space. So what you need to do, you need to protect your session from the unauthorized access. Make sure that if someone else is trying to get connection with your session, you are blocking the unauthorized access. So what you can do, you need to you use the IPsec IPsec protocol or SSL to mitigate the risk. So as well as you can use the Windows authentication process for the protecting the unauthorized access. And then number 7 is the cryptography. The following, what you need to consider for the cryptography to secure your web application. So don't try to develop your own cryptography, because your cryptography may not be the secured as the existing policy. And then try to unencrypted data close to the algorithm. Keep unencrypted data close to the algorithm, and use the correct algorithm and correct key size, and then secure your encryption keys. So for the cryptography, don't develop your own cryptography, because cryptography algorithms and routines are extremely difficult to develop. So if you try to develop your own one, your system may not work properly. So use the existing cryptographic algorithm, uh, and then use it, so that your web application will be more secure. And keep unencrypted data close to the algorithm. When passing plain text to an algorithm, don't obtain the data unless you are ready to use it, and store it as few variables as possible in a. So what you need to do, you need to make sure that your encrypted data, you are decrypting the data very close to use it. While you are using it, then you are making the decrypt the data. Otherwise, if you decrypt the data before you use it, you are keeping this data for a long time, the attacker can easily get your data. So use the correct algorithm and correct key size. We have a lot of algorithms in the market available, and just choose the right algorithm for the right job, and make sure that you use the um, key size that provides a sufficient degree of security. Normally the larger key size increase the security. So we have some algorithms, and in each algorithm, you can use any one of the algorithms for encryption. And as well as they have the key standard, so you can use anything from here. And so then secure your encryption keys. You know that in every algorithm you have to use the, for example, DS 64-bit keys, and for triple DS 128-bit key or 192-bit key, and RSM 384-bit keys 384 to 16,384 bit keys. So what you need to do, you have to fix how many bits you are using for keys. So in every encryption technique, you have a own encryption key. So make it a secure. Otherwise, if someone get this encryption key, then easily he can decrypt your data. And for this reason, you must protect your keys. And then to protect the keys, how you can do, you can use a DP API to avoid key management, issue, and as well as cycle your keys periodically. So every after a certain time, you can recycle, or you can generate your keys. Number 8 is parameter manipulation. So what are the things you need to do for parameter manipulation? You can encrypt the sensitive cookie state, and then make sure that users don't bypass your checks, and then validate all values sent from the clients, and don't trust HTTP header information. You need to do these 4 things for parameter manipulation. Now, encrypt sensitive cookies. So I already mentioned you that you have to encrypt every single data before you store anywhere else. So and decrypt the data just before the use of the data. So your cookie may have the sensitive information. For example, you may have the session identity SSID, so or sensitive data. So before this one, you have to encrypt it, and as well as you need the server side authorization process. And what you need to do to protect this type of data from unauthorized manipulation, use cryptography to encrypt the contents of the cookie, and make sure that the users don't bypass your checks. So what you can do, you are checking the authorization, you are checking the manipulation parameters. So make sure that the attackers cannot bypass your checks. If they can bypass your check, then your system will no longer be secure. So for example, when you are developing your site, if you have have in the browser like this here, session ID equal to 10. So if you have this type of information, what the attacker can do, attacker can change this value with the random number, and he can try with the try to get some information. So don't put like this. And then validate all values sent from the client. Whatever the values are coming from the client, please try to validate it. And because user and user can enter, modify, and validate all the values coming from the clients. And then we have predefined values in your form fields. User can change them and push them back to the receive different results. And permit only known good values wherever possible. So if it is a bad values, because if it does not maintain following your constraint, please don't pass it. And as well as if there is any malicious thing, you have to sanitize it. So don't trust HTTP header information. Never trust HTTP header information. And like at the start of HTTP request and HTTP response. So what is the reason? Because it is easy for an attacker to manipulate the header. And don't make any security decision based on the value of the referrer field. And based on this field, please don't try to make any sort of security decision. Number 9 is exception handling. So what are the exception handling you need to consider for web application. Number one, don't leak information to the client, and log detailed error message and case exceptions. So don't leak information to the client. What in the event of a failure, don't expose information that could lead to information disclosure. If you have the error message, something like this, then the attacker can get the message from can get the message, and then he will try to do the SQL injection to attack your system. So be careful about the leaking information to the client. And then log details errors. If you have um, if you send detailed error message to the error log, send minimal information to the consumer of the service or application, so that they cannot do anything. Make sure that we don't log password or other sensitive data with that error message. So if you send the if you send the log detail error message to the consumers, then it will also helpful for the attacker to attack your system. And then case exceptions. So use structured exception handling or case exception conditions. Doing so avoids leaving the application in an inconsistent state, and it will also helps to protect your application from denial service of attack, and give special consideration to what occurs at the application boundary. So these are the things you need to consider for catching exceptions. And then auditing and logging. For the auditing and logging, you have to audit and log access across the application tiers, and consider identity flow, log key events, and secure log files. Backup and analyze log files regularly. You have to consider these 5 things for auditing and logging. So audit and log access across the application tiers. Of the you have to audit and log access of the application for non-repudiation, and then use a combination of application level login and platform auditing features such as Windows IIS and SQL Server auditing. And then consider identity flow. So identity flow will flow color identity across multiple application tiers. So we have the two basic choice. Number one, we can flow the color identity at the operating system level, or we can flow the colors identity at the application level. So if you go to the operating system level, this will allow us to operating system level auditing. And the drawback with this approach is that it affects the scalability. And if you do the application level, use trusted identity to access the backend resource. And in this identity checker, you have to trust the middle tier. And if you go for the operating system level, then you don't have the middle tier. You are just getting access to the database. And then log key events. And then log key events, and these types of events that should be logged include successful and failure log on atoms, and modification of data, retrieval of data, network communication, and administrative. So based on this, logs should be included the time of the events and location of the event, including machine name and identity of the current user, the identity of the process initiating the event, and the detailed description of the event. If you have the log key event, then easily you can secure your system. Now secure log files. So you have to secure log file using Windows SEL and restrict access to the log files. So please make sure that only in the high level of administrator will get access to the log files. And minimize the number of individual who can manipulate the log files, and authorize access only to the highly trusted accounts such as administrator. So you have to secure your log files, and backup and analyze the log file regularly. So there is no point in login activity if the log files are never analyzed. You have to analyze the log files, and as well as log files should be removed from production servers on a regular basis. Yeah, from the production server you have to remove it on a regular basis. The frequency of regular is dependent upon the application of the activity, level of activity. Design of application should consider the way that log files will be retrieved and moved to the offline server for analysis. Any additional protocols or ports opened on the web server for this purpose must be securely locked down. And deployment consideration during the application design phase, review the corporate security policies and procedures, because every organization have their own security policies and procedures. They have their own infrastructure, so you have to review it where the application is to be deployed. So you have to review this type of policies and procedures for your deployment. And since the target environment is rigid, because they will never compromise their security policy with your system, so application design must reflect to their restriction. And then identify the constraints to avoid surprises later, and involve members of the network and infrastructure teams to help this process. And on the deployment aspect, required design time consideration. Number one here, application security, then host security, deployment technology, local application tier, this one remote application tier, and then network infrastructure security, router, firewall, and things. Security policies and procedure are based on these things. And security and policies and procedures determines what type of application are allowed to do, and what the users of application are permitted to do. So define a restriction to determine what applications and users are not allowed to do, and identify and work within the framework defined by the corporate security policy when designing the application. So you have to consider, always you have to be careful about the corporate policies and procedures regarding security. And then network infrastructure components. So you have to consider the understand the network structure provided by the target environment, and you have to understand the basic security requirements of the network in terms of filtering rules, port restriction, and supported protocols. And then consider what type of protocol, ports, and services are allowed to access internal resources, and identify how firewalls and firewall policies are likely to affect the application design and deployment. And then identify the protocols and ports that the application design requires, and analyze the potential threats that occur from the opening new ports. And pay attention to the security defense your application relies upon the network provide, and consider the implication of a change in a network configuration. So you have to be careful about the network infrastructure, and you need to consider these things for the network component as well. And deployment technology, so you need to consider the deployment technology. Deployment technology, that means understand web application deployment topologies. So find out whether the remote application tier is a key consideration that must be incorporated in the design. And then consider identity flow and accounts used for the network authentication when application connects to the remote servers. And then extranet, intranet, extranet, and internet. So the present design challenges, the question that should be considered include how will we flow caller identity, and then can we trust the authentication, and then extranet scenario. And the summary is that the security should permeate every stage of the product deployment life cycle, and it should be a focal point of application design, and pay particular attention to the design of a solid authentication and authorization strategy. And also remember that the majority of application level attacks rely on maliciously formed input data. The guidance presented in this chapter should help you with this and other challenging aspects. I think now we can do some more labs, and then I will start again. So Mr. Manoj Jaman will do some labs.
Thank you, sir. So we will start with DBW. We will see how it was designed and what was the difference between level. So first of all, I need to open DBW. Here it was here, and let's start with brute force. So click on this menu. Okay, so here you can see this is a login interface, and you can log in from this page, and at the very bottom of this page you will see view source. So we can see which source code is running for making this login functionality works. So click on view source, and here you can see this is for the low level code. So what we are trying to do, we are taking the username from URL, then we are taking the password from the URL, and we are doing converting the password to MD5. That means our password is in encrypted MD5. This is encrypted with MD5, the password. So we need to convert this to MD5 hash. Here we are doing this. Then we have two variable here, user and pass. After this, we are running this query, select star from user. We are searching in database whether the user and password is valid or not. If the user and password is valid, we are showing that welcome to the password protected area. If not, we will show a incorrect message. So this is the basic logic. You can see what if I try a invalid, try with invalid credential again and again. So here we cannot see any lockout policy. So if I compare all level, so this is this code is for impossible level. This is not similar as the low level. At the low level, you can see there is no check, and in medium level, this is the code for medium level. I am comparing all of this source code. So here we have some logic. So you can see we are not taking the variable directly from the URL. So this is simply there are some protection against the username. So we are not taking directly, and we are doing some MySQL real estate string. That means we are doing some check against the encryption. So we are doing some check for the value, and if user is trying to do some SQL injection, this will not be happen here, because we are escaping the string. We are doing input validation, and then the others logic is same. After this, if we check for high brute force, so still it's possible to do a brute force attack there. So you can see this is little more complicated things, and this is more secure. Then here we have another code which is the most difficult to break, and it's almost impossible to break. You can see that after login, there is a total failed login 3 times. That means you cannot do a failed login more than 3 times. After 3 invalid try, your account will be locked, and your your locked out time is 15 minutes. So if one account is locked, you will be locked for 15 minutes, and after 15 minutes you will be able to log in with username and password again. So this is how we can protect our against brute force attack. And then I will show you another thing, command injection CSRF. Let's file upload. So here is a simple file upload for user. You can see such type of feature in any admin panel, such as you need to upload any file, or you need to upload your profile picture, or any other documents. So how such kind of system can be compromised? Simply we can if you this is the main feature of this uploader is upload a image or some file. But if we can upload any malicious file such as PSC file or another file, it will be very dangerous things. So if we simply in law, in security level law, if we simply try this, we can upload any PSC file here. So PSC shell file we can upload here. So if we check the source code, let me show you. Here is the basic code for this uploader, and you can see here I'm just uploading the file, directly uploading the file. We don't have any check for which type of file we are uploading or anything else. We don't have any check here. So simply user can upload any type of file. But if I compare all level, so this is impossible. If I go to in medium file level, so here you can see, remember in low setting there was no checking, but in medium level there is a checking. It is the checking. Here we are checking whether the uploaded type is image or not. So if you try to upload any any invalid file which is not a image, PNG type or image JPG type, the file will not be uploaded here, because there is a checking. So only image can be uploaded here. But still it's possible to compromise the system. It's still possible. So if we want to make another secure way, we can do some more checking. We will check in medium level, in high level security. We can see that instead of only checking the file type, we are checking the file extension. So this will explode the file extension from the uploaded file, either it is .psc or this is .pdf or this is .png. This will take the file extension, and also it will check the file size. So if it's matched with the condition, only then you will be able to upload the file successfully. Otherwise it's not possible to upload the file. And this is the most impossible method, and this is the code behind the scenario. This code, if you set impossible level and for a file upload, and this code will be executed. And here you can see this is the most secure way to write a file uploader, because instead of only checking the file type or file extension, this is also checking a CSRF. So one file, one form can be submitted only once if there is a session checking. So nobody can submit from outside. This is anti-CSRF token. So this will prevent you from attacking this server. So in this way you can do lots of testing. If you think about the SQL injection, here I will show you. So this is the basic SQL injection part, and here is the view source. So here you can see there is no checking. So we are taking the ID from URL. That means we are taking from if I put one there, and this is the ID. So in our PHP on the backend, what we are doing, we are taking this value from the URL. Here is the ID. So we are taking the request from the URL, and we are directly sending this value to database. That means we are not validating whether user inputted a correct value or incorrect value. We are not checking. Instead of checking, we are sending this value directly to the database, and we are fetching the mesh data. So this is in this way this will work, but hacker can attack in this code. Let me show you with another level so you will understand. So in medium level, you can see after we are not sending the ID directly to the database, we are using another function, real escape string. So this will validate the user inputted data. You will not be able to input any kind of attacking script, such as if I put one, this is not validating the input. So in medium level, you will not be able to put a quotation like this. It will prevent you from this function will prevent you from doing this attack. So from the low level, this is the difference. So your script will be much more secure, but still it can be compromised using some other technique. So you need to do more. You need to follow more secure way. And here you will see some other. This is in impossible way. You must be use a anti-CSRF token. So this function is generating a anti-CSRF session token, which will ensure that you are the right user to make this request. That means this is almost impossible to hack. So you should, to prevent SQL injection, you must follow this coding structure. You must follow these rules. So throughout this course, we have showed lots of things to you, and I think you can practice more. And now we'll show some other slide.
Yes. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So now what we can do the course summary. So what did we learn in last 8 classes? We had an introductory class, first class. We had an introduction of the cyber security, cyber crime, something like this, and then we we have learned about hacking web server and its different tools, and then we have learned hacking web applications and its different tools, and then we learned a lot of about SQL injection and injection tools. After that, we learned scanning networks and different tools, and then hacking wireless network and different tools. And today we have learned about securing web applications. So regarding the lab works, so we have used some basic level labs, and so for this course we cannot do actually much in the online course technique, because to hack someone's system, if we do the if we can do in a real world, then it will be easy for you to learn it and for practice. But we cannot do this one, but we have the basic knowledge. We know the name of the tools, we know how to use the tools, and we know how we can get access to the other system. So if we practice at home, then easily we can do, but make sure that we are doing the ethical hacking. So you can make your own website, and then you can try to hack your own system, not the others one. So uh, if if we want to if we want to do more labs, please practice by yourself. And so what I can do, I can tell you that wishing you all the best in the ethical in the world of ethical hacker, and there are lots of jobs in the as a ethical hacker. And what you can do next, you can learn OSAP top 10. There are some tools and some techniques you can learn there, and also you can practice using BWAP tool, so you can use the BWAP tools, and later you can do it. But you can, if you use the Burp Suite, you can do a lot in that one. So these are the things we have learned in the previous class and during this class. So what I can do now, I want to answer the questions before going more. So question answers. Mr. Ashraf, please tell the name, some of the tools to decrypt the password. I think you can use the yeah, you can use the hash killer to decrypt the password, so you can use that one. Mr. Onimesh Kashkei, please tell me about the homework. Will there be any? I don't think so. We will give any more homework. So you, what you can do, you can practice by yourself at home. And if you need any more help, please email the admin or email us. We can help you. We are happy to help you in the world of ethical hacking. So, Mr. Kingjang Chedom, sir, could you please conduct mock exams so that we get the familiarized with the types of questions? Yes, admin can do the mock exam to conduct with the admin so that he can arrange it. Mr. Monjur from admin panel, can anyone help to upload the lecture of the class 3? I have requested the same earlier also. I think class 2 and class 3 was the same slide, so please make sure that you are using the class slide 2 for the class 3. Mr. Rakesh Kumar Kunwar, how to check the cache data and how to encrypt it. So we can use the tools for checking the cache data. You can use the Burp Suite as well to check the cache data. And then no more question. I would like to thank you all. One more question. Mr. Pradeep Kumar Das, what is the relation between server configuration and application development in respect of the hack website? Server configuration also Is a firewall with some policies and ACL rules is enough to protect from an attack. Server configuration is the hardware side. This is the hardware side configuration, and application development is the software side protection. So you have to do both to protect your system. You have to do both for the protect your system, because if your system firewall is not enough to secure your server as well as your application, because if you have the a vulnerability in your application, then hacker can hack it. If there is a vulnerability in your server, then hacker can hack it. So make sure that you have to secure both server and application as well. Mr. Jubair, is there any ethical hacking certifications? Yes. How can we prepare and get it? Yes, you have the ethical hacking CE certified ethical hacker. You can do it, and I think maybe Prometric or Pearson View is the Pearson View maybe. And if you are in Bangladesh or whichever you are living, lots of centers are there, so you can sit for the ethical hacker. And no more questions. We tried our best to teach the ethical hacking, and as well as introduction of the tools. So maybe it will help you a little bit to get a job in the field of ethical hacker. And so I think we can tell you that best of luck. So admin.
Yes. Yes. Almost half an hour in our hand. If you
Yes.
so we can show any lab for the participant, or simple small lab.
Small lab
Possible, because almost 4:30.
Almost 4:30.
Yes,
Yes. Any lab we can show? What you can show? Some configuration file. Configuration file. Yeah, so we can. Yeah, Mr. Monirujjaman can show how we can start with BR.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So we already know some basic point about DBW lab. So you can practice lots of things here in DBW. So localhost slash. So you can practice all of this attack here, and you can learn from here how to code in secure way. So after this, what is next? So today I will show you another application from using which you can do some more practical things. You can use you can simply do a Google search using OSAP top 10. So this is the organization. In this organization, you will get they published yearly top 10 list. So this is loading. I don't know whether it's loading. Because it's the intercept is on, I need to off. So you can see lots of a top 10 list here, and they have a tools, so you can as like DBW you can install the another tools and practice more. So I will show you how to download these tools and do practice in your home. So I would like to show you BWAP. So these tools, and you can download it from this link. So click on download. Download started. I already had downloaded this, so I can show you. So here is the downloaded file. So after downloading this, you have a text file install.txt where there is a step-by-step instruction how to install it. I will show you also. So first of all, you need to copy this directory, BWAP directory, in your local host. So I have copied, and in my local server, I have a folder called BWAP, and I have putted all of the script here. After that, I need to configure the database. So if you check the documentation, here is a step-by-step documentation. So after extracting this file, you will have to give them permission, and then in admin/settings.php, in settings PHP file, you will have to put your DB server, DB username, and DB password. So let me show you. You will get this directory, and I am opening this with my code editor. So you will see here is a admin folder, and inside this we have some file included the settings.php. In settings file, you will have to put your database information. So at the very beginning of this page, you see my DB server is localhost, username root, password root, and this is the database name. So you don't need to create this database. You just need to put the name here. System will automatically, if you install this software, system will automatically do these things for you. So let me show you. After creating your configuration file, you will have to go to this, depending on your server, on your directory location, you will have to put this localhost, the folder name, the project name of this, the folder name of this project, and then you will have to put install.php. So this is the interface, installation interface of our application, and from there you will have to click on this link. So it's showing the database is already exists. That means I have already installed this software. So after the installation has finished, you can log in. Here is a from this menu, you need to click here, and you will see a login menu, and you can log in from here. And here are also some other portion, new user information, some blog, some other training. So let me show you how to do logged in your installation documentation. You will get a default credential. So for us, the username is B, and the password is bug, BUG. And you will have to set the security level. After this, click on login button, and we are done. And our testing portal is on, and from here we can do lots of testing. You can see here is a list. Here is a list of bugs. So which you want to practice, you can do it from here, or from this list you can select from here, and from the level you can set the level here also. So let me show you how you can do some practice. I will start with the first one, HTML injection reflected get. So what if you want to practice this? You will have to select it from this menu, and the basic level is low. Click on set, and we after selecting this, we will have to click on hack, and if we click on this, we will get this menu. This is simply a username and password entry form, and you can write any name, first name, and you can write anything here. So you can see after clicking on the submit button, it's showing the inputted first name and last name here. But this is taking the name from, you can see from the URL. That means this is taking from the get method. It is using get method to take this variable from the URL. Then, so how we can do inject here? How we can do hacking things here? How we can attack this scenario? In this scenario, you can see simply we are taking the value from the URL. So here you can see if you put any JavaScript, you will simply as you know, I am already logged in. So simply if I put a JavaScript here and the last name, blah blah blah. So if I click on go, simply check. This is showing my this script is showing my PHP session ID, which means this is the session ID by which I am logged in. So and another session is security level 0. So you can see simply I can get the PHP session ID and other cookies from the browser using JavaScript. This is one kind of XSS and HTML injection, reflected and get. So what we can do with this, if I put this and put this, what I can do with PHP session ID? As you know, this is very important. This session ID is very important. This means if you can somehow steal this or somehow send this PHP session ID to other server, it will be it's possible for you to log in as with my credential, without my credential in my admin panel as this user. So this is very important for us to check this, and in this way you can check other things such as SQL injection, lots of practical things, cross-site scripting and some other. So this is next step you can do, and then I will show you another things. So how you can do some basic configuration in your server. So in our slide we have showed you how to never do any default setting, never use any default setting. So how you can override the setting, or how you can put your security setting in your server. So first of all, you need to know which server you are using. So for me, I am using Apache and I am using PHP. So I will show you where is the configuration file of Apache and where is the configuration file of PHP. So to get the I am using MEMP, and here you can see, and I am using Apache server for HTTP as a HTTP server, MySQL server for my database, and PHP for programming. So from this menu, if I click on preference, you can see the Apache is running on port 80 and MySQL is running on 3306. And for PHP, I am using PHP 7.2.20, and for web server, I am using Apache. So I need to go to in Apache folder. So if I click on this, I can see you can see here is a htdoc folder where I am putting all of my coding. This is mainly my web directory will be loaded from here, and from there in bin folder there is a folder Apache, and there is a folder PHP. So in this PHP folder, as I am using PHP 7.2, you can simply go to this folder and in bin, and here is the configuration file PHP ini. So this is the main PHP ini file from where my PHP configuration is loading. So make sure this file is not writable by others. It's very essential for you to keep this file secure. And here you will see lots of configuration regarding your web application, how PHP will execute, such as the uploaded max file size and utem directory up a file, and allow URL f URL. This is too much complicated. This is too much dangerous things. If you put this on, you need to make this off. If you don't need this feature, if you don't know why this is used, you must, this configuration must be disabled. You must put off here, because you using this setting, anyone can include file from your from any other server remote directory. In this way, you will find another directory. If I want to show you some PHP config, here is my Apache. So in this folder, you will see httpd.conf. So this is the file for configuring Apache, and if I open this file, you will see so you can see this is the main configuration file from which port I am listening. So this should be configured here, from which port my directory will be loaded, and then which configuration, which module I need to load, this will be there. And after this, some motivation, some code for my folder, and here you can see allow override all. That means any web under this server can be, any configuration can be overwritten. So make sure you know about this. If you don't want to give user permission about overwriting, you can simply make it about allow override, simply put none. So here you will get a list of the default value. So this can be all or none. So if you don't know about these settings, simply put it none. So I think if you go through this file, you will see lots of configuration here, and I hope step by step you can understand more and more. I suggest you to use Google for learning new things, and I hope you can learn lots of things in this way. And please download, install the BUP app, and try to practice it at home, and best of luck for this.
Yes, admin. We have question and answers. Mr. Riaz, I think patching regular. Regular is also required, safe from any attack. What do you think, sir? Yes, patching regularly is also required. Mr. Rakesh Singh, thank you for all sessions, sir. Thanks you a lot. Mr. Rakesh, thank you for the admin also. Thanks you a lot. Mr. Rakesh Kumar, DBW Lab. Yes. So no more questions. Admin. Admin.
Sir.
No more questions, nothing else.
Also no more questions. Okay, sir.
Thanks you a lot.
Okay, sir. If anyone asks questions directly, we can give them space.
Yes, you can.
Okay, dear participant, if anyone can ask question, please press the hand raise button. So you can ask directly to the teacher.
Question, Mr. Shibaram Awal mock questions. Actually, this is the multiple choice questions. So I don't know whether you will get mock questions or not, but all the questions in the exam will be in multiple choice. So it will be related to ethical hacking. Thank you. Mr. Riaz, thanks you all for the course. Yeah, thank you also for listening us. No more question, admin. I want to thanks the admin.
Yes, sir. Sir, most of the participants ask any practical exam. So if it's possible to take a practical exam?
No, it is not possible to take practical exams because how will we test?
Yes.
We need to give a website so that they can hack it. So it is related to hacking. I cannot provide anything.
Yes.
Yes. It is not possible.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, sir. So thank you so much. We can
So thanks you a lot. Actually, we tried our best to put some lab things in this course. Actually, in the online course, nobody do any lab things because I did one online course with the Singapore. They did not do any lab works, but still we have introduced some tools and also we have tried our best to put some lab works in the class. So if you want to, if they want to be the professional, they have to practice by themselves. Now they know everything, just they need practice. All right.
Okay, sr.
So thanks a lot for your support, admin. You did an excellent job. And also the CEO of the BDRAN, I am grateful to him because he gave us the chance for this class. So thanks you all. So I am leaving the session now.